Welcome back to the Premier League series, the Premier League countdown, where I talk about every Premier League team, all 20 Premier League teams, just before the Premier League starts, and we preview all of them. This is the same day I've recorded the Everton one, and you're seeing the Fulham one. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I am recording this on a Wednesday, by the way, the same day as the Everton one, and you're seeing this on the weekend. So if I do miss out on any news in between then well, I didn't know. I can only report on what I think right now. Fulham have been in a bit of chaos in a recent week, with their manager being linked to Saudi, Mitrovic on the way to Saudi. They must hate the Saudis. But they've also were in for Salisu. I'm pretty sure he's going to Monaco now, because they have pretty much nearly confirmed a deal for Calvin Bassey, who's a player I wanted at my club a year ago. And Calvin Bassey can play centre back, he can play left back. He's got pace very behind. It hasn't worked out at Ajax, and I think this is also because Tosin Adebayo will probably leave. I don't know if they have a fourth. I think they might still have Shane Duffy, but they've got Issa Diop, a former West Ham player, and they've got Tim Ream, who was actually had a really good season last season. And Fulham have a decent team. They have also replaced Mitrovic with Raul Jimenez. Now, Raul Jimenez hasn't been the same since the injury, and it's still a good signing, I think, because he gets into the same areas as Mitrovic, but he's just a bit slightly more mobile. I'm not saying he's a mobile player, but he gets into the same areas. And this is just before, on this day, when they're playing in the summer series. And I think Fulham will be fine in this season. I think they'll finish mid-table again. And they have a lot of decent players. One of the most underrated players in the Premier League, and I've actually liked this player since they were in with Scott Parker and all them, Harrison Reed. I think Harrison Reed's so underrated. I think the way he makes forward runs, I think a good box-to-box midfielder. He developed a good partnership with Paulinho in a coming season, and I knew Paulinho was never going to leave Fulham for West Ham. And with them two as a pivot, Harrison Reed bobbing on a bit, they've revived Andreas Pereira, they've revived Carlos Vinicius a bit. They've let Cabano go. I think Cabano's left. Bobby Duke-Reed is a good winger. Obviously, they didn't make the Mano Solomon deal permanent. He had a short purple patch, decent player. Wasn't really favoured under Marco Silva, so there must be something behind that. Maybe there was a thing in his contract where if he triggered an amount of appearances, he would have had to leave. The Kevin and Barbu deal hasn't worked, because loaned him straight out. He was even playing Bobby Duke-Reed up right back over him. He must have not liked him straight away. Kenny Tete had a decent season. The game at Stamford Bridge where they drew 0-0 comes into mind of the kind of player that he is. They've got Issa Diop now, who I could give you pretty much a good brief on Issa Diop. Issa Diop is very inconsistent and has his qualities. Can give you a very, very good game or a very, very shit game. Issa Diop is probably a failed wonder kid, not a failed footballer. This was a guy that when he joined us, and we beat Man United, when we basically nearly got Mourinho sacked, Mourinho actually complimented how good Issa Diop was and said well done to whoever scouted him. And Issa Diop is a guy who lacks concentration, but in big games will actually give you a good performance. It's just in the smaller games where you might worry about him a bit more. And that partnership with Tim Ream can develop really good. And he didn't work with Craig Dawson at West Ham when he was playing alongside him. He was decent with Ogbonna and Balbuena. But yeah, Issa Diop, you never know what you can get with him. Decent on the ball, but for some reason, lapse of concentration just gives away the ball. The left side of their defence, Tim Ream and Anthony Robinson, they've obviously got chemistry from the national team. And they're very good on the left-hand side. Anthony Robinson was rumoured as a left-back option for Manchester City that they might get him. But obviously Manchester City don't really play with full-backs anymore. They always play with 4 centre-backs and a centre-back that goes into midfield. So he probably wouldn't fit that system. But Anthony Robinson is another player I wanted at West Ham where he could go forward and he can defend very well. He's a good balanced fullback. He's a good modern fullback. Gets up and down. I'm trying to think who they play off the left now. I guess Willian. Willian, they signed an extension for the deal, and that was another player that I did not expect to have a really good season. Excuse me. And I think Willian, I don't expect him to have as good a season as he did last season mainly because of his age, but it did surprise me him hitting shots with both feet. The way he looked, like he was looking like some of his days at Chelsea, and yeah, I think if Fulham might need a couple more players, maybe another winger, maybe a winger with a bit more pace. Who else would they need? Maybe another backup midfielder. They've got Lukic, they've got Reed, but have they got maybe another midfielder? Maybe Tom Kearney can fill in at that spot. But I don't really know what else Fulham would want, or what Fulham fans would want. But I think they'll be fine. They won't have the second season syndrome. I don't think. I think you'll find a lot of YouTubers that do the prediction videos will put Fulham around the relegation spot again. But I think they're here to stay. I think under Marco Silva they play a good brand of football, and I think they just need to see games out. Maybe that's the main weakness of Fulham. Maybe in this sort of team, they were close to Europe, and then they had a big drop off. Maybe since that Brentford game, or maybe a few games before at the Brentford Community Stadium. And it'll be quite interesting to see where they'll finish. I reckon they scream like 11th this season, but we'll see in my predictions video in a couple weeks. But yeah, that will be it for this video as well, guys. Make sure to leave a like and subscribe if you are new. Social media is in the description if you want to follow me in the email for the inquiries. I'll see you guys later. Goodbye.